Good morning. Happy Wednesday. As you can see, I'm in my pajamas because we are not going to take sleep lying down. In fact, we're going to talk today about what it means to sleep your way to the top in a very different way. I brought in the big guns. I brought in Lily Holmberg. And if you don't know Lily, what you need to know is that she is working with corporations over at Oura Ring in order to help them to share the information about sleep for better career performance. Lily, I am so grateful and happy that you're here. I know that you have your ring on, and we're going to talk a lot about, oh, two rings. We're going to talk a lot about the functions that the ring allows for, but also before we get in there, please, anybody, tell us about your sleep last night. Like, how did you sleep? Because sleep is serious business. And what we're going to talk about today is not only why it's so serious, but also specifically around what it means if you are not getting proper sleep. So, Lily, bring it on, girl. Tell us why and how, this whole kind of evolution around the value of sleep, right? Because there's been so much kind of like bragging and bad value around people going, oh, I'm so tired. I hate that. I'm so tired. Good morning, Erin Holmberg. I have a feeling there's a little bit of a relationship there. Good deal. So why is sleep kind of like the wake up call for all of us with respect to our career performance?
So true, Lauren. Thank you. And I hope you slept well last night.
I did.
I slept pretty well last night too. I feel like this change of seasons, this time of year where the weather starts to cool off, it's like really conducive for nice sleep.
Like
So
bears.
yeah, right. And I think, it's so true. And for some people out there, and, for myself for sure, like when I think back to, you know, the media around sleep and the narrative around sleep in, say the 80s and the 90s and the 2000s. And recently, there's always been this sense that, global leaders, business leaders, really successful people, don't need very much sleep. They just, you hear these stories, this president only slept 4 hours a night. This business leader only, needed 5 hours a night. And what's interesting about that is that for sure, all humans were very different person to person, right? But the amount of people out there who fall into that category of only needing a couple hours of sleep regularly night after night, and they're able to just perform in this incredible high level, that number is actually really small. Maybe 1 to 3% of the population is the number that I see thrown around, of people who they can just still crush it day after day, only getting a few hours of sleep a night. So are there people out there like that? Sure. But absolutely, the majority of us, almost all of us, really need, 7 to 9 hours of really good sleep, really healthy sleep, night after night on a regular basis. And we're just going to feel better and perform better when we're in that situation.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and that's so old, right? I'm so tired, and bragging about how little sleep you need. Unfortunately, I don't ever hear that many people, maybe some people go, oh, wow, you know what? I completely, I had the most restful night's sleep, or I feel so, restored. Very rarely do people get excited about sharing that. And I don't know why. There's like some kind of twisted thinking
I
that
know.
it's like bad, or you're lazy, or you're unproductive because you're sleeping. And of course, in the whole world of athleticism, any coach will tell you about the value of sleep and rest. So, what I would really like to understand as we kind of transition this is, what does this mean? What are the secrets for those who put that high value on sleep? What do they know that most quote unquote normies don't know? What do they know? What's the secret?
Yeah, absolutely, Lauren. And I think that we're starting to move away from the reality of sleep being less than. People are starting to realize more and more that sleep is absolutely foundational to all of our health and wellness. I mean, really kind of like no matter where you go with health and wellness, sleep is going to be that foundational underpinning of everything that you really need to be healthy. And so you're right, elite athletes, competitive athletes, they know this, and they've been working in that space for a long time. And now that's that group of people, that audience of people who is taking sleep really seriously and prioritizing sleep is really starting to expand, because each night, and I mean, for our entire lives, the average human, we all spend about 1/3 of our lives asleep.
The
There's
other third is working.
right. Well, that's a whole other session. But this idea that, as humans, we have dedicated, 1/3 of our lives to sleep on average. There's something really significant about that. This is a huge part of our life and our experience. And when we start to chip away at that night after night, that does have ramifications for, our physical health and our mental health. And when you build towards a healthy sleep practice and, really create the time and the space to have healthy sleep night after night, you will notice that you start to feel better, and things, your body is designed to get a lot of sleep. So when you're getting good sleep, your mind's going to work better. Your body's going to function more optimally. Each night you go through a variety of sleep stages. You just kind of cycle through, 4 different sleep stages, kind of like light time awake in between sleep stages, a little bit of light sleep, again, transitioning into the places that, we spend a lot of time talking about and thinking about when we talk about sleep and, its impacts on physical health and mental health. And those are for things like deep sleep. Every night, you need to cycle through some amount of deep sleep. And most people, healthy adults, will get about 1 to 2 hours of deep sleep every night. This is like, somewhere between like 13 and 23% of your nightly sleep. And deep sleep is amazing. Like, you want to get deep sleep. But when people talk about deep sleep, the words that come to mind are restorative, rejuvenative, healing. Because while you're in deep sleep, your physical body is really going through a lot of processes that are going to, take care of you. If you are, say you're training for a triathlon, you're training for a marathon, and you do have, muscles and tissues that need to recover and heal while you're sleeping, deep sleep is going to be the stage when your body gets really into that. Deep sleep is also going to be fantastic for things, like keeping your bones really healthy. It's sort of like this very physically restorative time for you to be asleep. The other aspect of deep sleep that's so important, and why we all want to make sure we're getting like lots of really good healthy sleep night after night, is for the brain. So during the day, especially for the folks out there who are busy professionals and, just those of us who work every day, which is many of us, most of us, your brain kind of like some waste products build up in your brain all day long because you're thinking and you're using your brain a lot. And so when you sleep, and especially during deep sleep, a system in your body called the glymphatic system really turns on. And what that does is it's actually kind of like, you can think of it as a bath for your brain. It's kind of going to wash your brain. And so that cerebrospinal fluid is going to wash over your brain while you sleep. And it's going to kind of wash everything out, all that waste from the day of all of your thinking and all of the things that you did, all of your meetings, and just, all of those pieces.
It's your defrag, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It really is removing all that residue. Mm-hmm. Some of the other things we have also talked about that I want to raise my hand to make sure we include are memory, metabolism, mm-hmm. and energy. So yes. Brendan Burchard, if anybody has ever read his books, Performance Habits, talks about how CEOs they need as much energy as an athlete, as a elite athlete. The amount of output is so intense. And I know there are days when I'm just like, I need to shut off. I have output so much because, yay, I wear my pajamas. Thanks, Amy, for noticing. And I absolutely need, to restore. I know the restorative piece is restful and relaxing, but if I want to go back and, have a full tank, there is no way. And I remember when my kids were really young and having no sleep, I was a complete bitch. I mean, that was not even a joke. So I'm getting a lot of really, 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 really good questions here that I just don't want to make, I don't want to avoid here or ignore. But did they take naps during the day? Thanks, Karen. This is in reference to how CEOs or high performers are bragging or say that they require less and less sleep. And the question is, well, are they compensating by taking naps?
All of these things connect. There's through lines to all of this. And so yes, they are compensating by taking some naps, but is that a bad thing? We're seeing a lot more workplaces now integrate nap rooms and just sort of a culture of being okay with short little quick cat naps throughout the workday. Like that's becoming more normal. What happens, like to kind of with what you're mentioning there about sort of this, this refresh for memory and cognitive health and having a positive mental outlook, supporting your mental health, problem solving. A lot of that is the other part, like one of those other really big important sleep phases. That's REM sleep. So that deep sleep, a lot of that happens early in the night. REM sleep happens later in the night. And that's, of course, associated with dreaming, right? You kind of like, and oftentimes we wake up, when we're having these dreams or after we've had a dream or during a dream. And so what starts to happen, I think, especially for a lot of busy folks, busy professionals and people who just, are really active, is it can become kind of like incentivized to wake up earlier, to get a jump on the day, to get a workout in, things like that. And when you do that, you're probably cutting off your REM sleep a little bit for most people. And so you start to shorten that period of time for the REM sleep. Ooh. So that's, I think, where the naps come in. When you're shortening either like the deep sleep, phase of your sleep, or you're shortening that REM sleep, your body does, want to kind of recalibrate. It wants to capture that lost sleep. So taking a quick nap, especially early in the day, 10 minutes.
Early in the day. That's what I learned from you.
Yeah.
And what is early in the day? Where should you consider your cap?
And I think, like, for me, I'm a morning person, so I would not, personally take a nap, just my opinion. I would not take a nap, after 2 p.m., maybe 3 p.m. if it's a day that I think I'm going to be out or up later. But I think for a lot of people, you kind of have to, if you know yourself, kind of like, oh, I'm a night owl, or, oh, I'm more of a morning person, you can kind of calibrate it a little bit in one direction or the other. But to me, it's sort of like an earlier in the day piece. When you find yourself on the couch, somewhere comfy, the day is finally over, maybe you're watching TV or you're just relaxing and you fall asleep. And you think to yourself, oh, I just took a little nap. I think that's where it starts to get to. That's not a nap. That's probably really good information from your body that you're pretty sleepy and it's time to go to bed. And a lot of people just peel themselves up from the couch and go to bed. But when you start to treat that like a little nap, sort of like, okay, now I took a little nap. Now I can stay up for a few hours later. Play around with some of that, because it might be beneficial for you to kind of just give your body the rest that it's asking for, when you fall asleep, kind of at like that 8 p.m. time.
And what's the ideal duration of that quote unquote nap? Because this is where I also start to really press the boundaries. I'm like, oh, it's an hour and 15-minute nap. So give us the ideal, time that you should be quote unquote napping for.
Yeah, I love a real micro nap. So I mean, like a 10-minute nap, a 15-minute nap, a 20-minute nap. I think a really great practice, especially for those of us who are busy and get stressed out during the day, is to do like a 5-minute mindfulness session of some kind. It can take on different forms. If you meditate, great. If there's some other kind of mindfulness you practice, to kind of relax, just to start to relax and just be calm, and then see, if sleep comes and, you can just take 10 minutes to sleep, 15 minutes to sleep. When there's this process called sleep inertia. And I think that's what we notice when we take a nap that's a little bit too long, and suddenly we wake up and we're so groggy. We don't feel refreshed. We feel like I just need to go back to sleep. And that's just because of the natural rhythms and cycles of the way sleep works. So the shorter you can keep your nap, the better. When you're getting to like a 90-minute session, over an hour, that's when some of that sleep inertia can start to kick in, and your body's just going to want to stay asleep. And depending on what your sleep deficit is, that's when the people say like, oh my gosh, I took a nap and I woke up 4 hours later, or, so I would say keep it short. I often set a timer for myself and just do a quick little nap. And oftentimes people really report that they feel so much better, so much more refreshed, awake, able to focus after, a 10, 20-minute nap.
Awesome. Great question here, Alana Fowler. And I'm so glad that you asked, because this was on our agenda. What about those weekends that we want to catch up on our sleep, right? Or we may be thinking about this for the holidays, right? Like, okay, I have a week between Christmas and New Year's. I'm going to pantry load all of my sleep in that period. Is that effective? How does this work?
Yeah, and I feel like the answer to this is going to vary from person to person and is also not exactly straightforward. There's a bit of kind of back and forth on this because ideally, you want to set yourself up for success with sleep and I think one of the pieces that's so important is trying to stay on a regular sleep schedule as much as you can through the holidays, just kind of even, no matter what, when life gets stressful, to be on a regular sleep. Our bodies are just so like, we're so habitual as humans, and to sort of set yourself up for success in trying to have as much of a regular wake up time and bedtime as much as you can. And then if you get away from it, because, social time is really important as well, to just get back on that schedule the next day, as soon as you can. But can you catch up on sleep? There's so much debate about this. I think that if you are tired and you are sleepy and you have extra time to rest, like for instance, Lauren, the time change happens this weekend. We got an extra hour. And so I think a great way to spend that extra hour is in a state of rest and recovery and, ideally getting an extra, a bit of sleep.
Right. You got like a sleep debit card.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And you get to use that. And I love that you're introducing this idea of using it for sleep. Do not use it for more hustle. You cash it in for restoration.
Yes.
So that you actually have more to work with. Next question. Oh, great one. Such a great one, Claudia. Does one get restorative sleep if you took a sleeping pill? Is that legit?
So that's another really interesting question. And I'm sure this varies person to person, and you have to work with your physician, when you're talking about sleeping pills. But, especially if you are doing any kind of wearable tracker, what a lot of people report is it's what we refer to as architecture of sleep. So you sort of have this natural architecture where for your body, and sleep is very different, it's individualized to each one of us. Your body is going to go through these natural cycles throughout the night while you sleep, and you want to have that light sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep throughout the night. And when you take sleeping pills, it kind of disrupts those different stages. So ultimately you may sleep and you will wake up from that sleep, but how refreshed do you feel? Do you feel like you're kind of not groggy, like ready to take on the day? When you get really good sleep, honestly, you feel pretty unstoppable. Matt Walker, the author of Why We Sleep and just one of the preeminent sleep scientists in the world, refers to sleep as your superpower. And so I feel like let sleep be your superpower. But I know that when we get so stressed out and like a lot of things are happening in life, kind of reaching for different things like an alcoholic beverage in the, late in the day, sleeping pills, things like that. I know I understand like the temptation of that, but they really do change the way that your body sleeps. And so you may sleep, but it won't be as restorative as it would have been without something like that.
So this is also just the perfect segue to talk about those times we all have when you are like stuck between a rock and a hard place. You cannot fall back asleep. You're up. Something is pressing. And all you want to do is sleep. You were so tired when you went to sleep, but for whatever reason, you can't get back to sleep. How do we get past that? I mean, I know there's no magic pill, but I think that some of the things that we can do, whether they be to prevent against it and or to remedy it when it's happening, what are the strategies that we might be able to do? Especially, I'm bringing this up also because I get a lot of people who are in transition. They're in their, it's the night before their final interview, and they are literally telling me right after the interview, I had a horrible night's sleep last night because I was obsessing about this. And so what should we be doing?
Yeah, that's so hard. And we've all been there, right? There's just times in our lives that are just more stressful and there's just so much going on. And I think for me, what I'll notice is like that first night that I wake up at 2:00 in the morning, thinking about all the things that are going on and replaying them in my mind and worrying about the sleep I'm not getting, that's one thing. If it starts to happen a few nights in a row or a few times a month, that's when you start to kind of, I guess for me, it sort of triggers like, okay, I need to take action. I need to take care of myself. I need to kind of look at what's going on here. And so for some people, working with some kind of, sleep lab or, a sleep professional, a sleep doctor can be really helpful to identify some of the things going on. For others of us who it's just sort of an occasional piece, sometimes there are certain things that you can do. So, and there's, I want to talk about a few things that are maybe a little bit different than what you might find, because there's certainly plenty of lists out there that are going to tell you avoid blue light before you go to bed.
Mm.
Don't drink caffeine late in the day. Some things that I feel like let's all practice those things because our sleep really will benefit from it. But something that I think is really interesting that experts talk a lot about that I know I've benefited from quite a bit is, and it's going to sound strange, but set aside time each day to worry. Okay. If you might be the kind of person who wakes up worrying in the middle of the night, wondering, about all the things that you have to do and kind of cataloging that and ruminating on, all of these pieces that are so stressful in your life, set aside sort of like a boundaried time. This is structured time to worry. It's not just a free for all of just letting your mind run wild, but take out a pen and a paper or open up, a doc on your computer and just start to make a list. Here are the things that I am worrying about. And here are the things that I can predict or guess I might be thinking about at 3:00 in the morning when I have this natural wake up time between sleep cycles. Because that's the other thing too. Like humans often, we have these natural breaks in between sleep sessions. And sometimes we get so locked in right away of like, oh, this is really unhealthy. Why am I awake in the middle of the night? When it's actually pretty normal for the human experience. But then I think in the modern context, we use that time to worry. And that's where it kind of, gets us in trouble. But when you set some time aside to worry, you're creating this structured boundary time where you can just capture a lot of these things that, are going through your mind that are going to worry you. Some of those things that keep us up at 3:00 in the morning are worried that we're going to forget to do something. Right. So try to capture those things, sometime during the day, if that's a time that works for you, or before you go to bed, just write yourself a list. And what that does is it allows you to kind of put a lot of those worries into a box and then just set them down. Just set those worries down. And then you can really kind of let yourself get into that place of sleep. And you can tell yourself pretty clearly, I can come back to this tomorrow. I know what I need to do, but right now it's time for me to rest. And because truly, there's not a lot most of us can do at 2 or 3:00 in the morning. We're not working at 2 or 3:00 in the morning, just to have that awareness of like, I'm in my bed and I'm just thinking about stuff, doesn't always serve us well. So just know you can come back to it tomorrow. All those things are still going to be there. You open up your box and you take them out and you can start managing them and dealing with them. And for sometimes too, if it's a particularly challenging time, keep that list next to your bed. And if you find yourself at 2 or 3:00 in the morning being like, oh, I should have added this to my list, or I know I didn't add it, write it down.
Just do that. I love this idea because what you've identified is the primary reason why we're up is because we're anticipating what it is that we're going to forget. So get it out there in advance. And if you find yourself use that tool. The other thing that we talked about, which I also found very, very interesting, is the impact of alcohol, even one drink. Right. So I think that, okay, we're probably not going to want to tie one on a Tuesday night, but it's very normal for people to have a glass of wine with dinner. And so what does that do in terms of sleep? And this is not a PSA, don't drink or anything like that. What it is saying is it is a factor in your sleep cycle.
100%, Lauren. And I think that the more people realize that there's a lot of people out there, many, many, many people out there, especially professional people who are busy all day, busy minds in the evening, reach for alcohol. It's just a fact. And it's a way to wind down for a lot of people. And it's kind of this habitual thing. Like, okay, I have this glass of wine or 2 glasses of wine. And it really alcohol impacts so many of our body systems that it's really it's not just I can tell you it's doing one thing to you. And if you could just have this one thing not happen, it would be fine. It's doing a lot of different things because it really does have all of these impacts on so many different systems in our body. So alcohol will impact sleep. It's again going to impact the architecture of sleep. A lot of people reach for alcohol because it helps them fall asleep. So then I feel like that's one of those pieces there that's so kind of sinister. Yes, alcohol may help you fall asleep, but the challenge is that later in the night, it often contributes to you waking up. because, and there's a lot of hormonal pieces that are there between melatonin and cortisol, one of the stress hormones, and, body temperature, and just sort of, it just impacts the body in so many ways. And you'll see if you do a wearable, your like a ring or, something else, you'll notice that your heart rate is often elevated when you're sleeping. You'll see things like that. You'll see other kind of measures that you can kind of experiment with. So it's sort of like there's ways you can see sort of the proof in your own data, but then also kind of like, how do you feel in the morning? Those mornings when you have, even just one glass of wine or one beer or something like that. Oftentimes people report that they just don't feel as good the next day, but it sure felt great to fall asleep easily. So trying to build in some of these, ways to take care of yourself to help support healthy sleep is
performance, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a really great gift you can give yourself to start to take care of yourself in that way, so that you can get good sleep every night without having to reach for something that's going to impact your sleep almost definitely in a negative way.
Fantastic. So we're going to talk about, please model it, the Oura Ring. I don't know if everybody knows what the Oura Ring is. I actually learned more about it because my business coach swears by this thing. He says, hands down, this is the number one wearable. He uses it every day. He's actually worn his out. He's about to replace the one that he has. Tell us why people are wearing them and what the functionalities are that are so beneficial. What is this measuring? Why do I care?
Yeah. And I've got, can't find my camera. I've got this gold one on here on my index finger. Yeah, I love this. And I've been like a long time fan of wearables, and I've gotten so much out of my ring since I started wearing it. It was like really, really cool to learn so much more about myself. So the Oura Ring is this incredibly accurate research grade tool that you can use to track a variety of metrics about yourself, but especially sleep. I mean, it's just remarkable for sleep. And so you do see it come up a lot of elite athletes, endurance athletes, people in the business world, and, just a lot of people wear it now because we are seeing a lot more people recognize that, it's not just, it's like if you measure something, you can change it. You hear people say things like that a lot. So starting to get a baseline on what your health is, what your sleep is, can be really phenomenal. And if I didn't say it already, the Oura Ring, as we say, is like having a sleep lab on your finger. So if you do a sleep study and you get a lot of things attached to your body all throughout. And, for some people that's really beneficial. So nothing wrong with that. But I think for a lot of us who just want to know like a pretty accurate baseline of where we're at and, in terms of those sleep stages, how much deep sleep am I getting every night? How much REM sleep am I getting? How much, how long does it take me to fall asleep? What's my resting heart rate? There's a lot of these pieces that can be so wonderful to start to get to know, because then you can start to try to change them and build new things into your life, or maybe, stop drinking that cup of coffee after dinner, or, maybe try a few nights without having a cocktail, in the evening, and see what that data looks like to you. So you can try to make some really good decisions for yourself. Something else I love about the Oura Ring that I didn't know about when I started wearing it was that it has a really nice feature for mindfulness. And so for folks who do find it challenging to unwind in the evening, or in the middle of the night, you can use your ring, your app, like your membership that comes with this, and you can get into some of those mindfulness sessions, because I think sometimes that really does the trick, and so like these are things from like bedtime stories to meditations that you can do for sleep, or focus, things like that as well. So there's some really great features and benefits in there, but I just love it. I've learned so much about myself, and it's just so accurate. It's wonderful. It just works really well. So I've kind of like, this is my only wearable now. I love it. Counts my steps too, Lauren.
So that was like a big aha for me. I didn't realize that this was also tracking your steps. And also there was some other things that you were saying, stress reduction, meditation, but also I think, they just introduced a new style. So there's a sensor that's on there, and show us the little kit thing that it comes with. So I did not know my ring size, especially because you're going to be wearing it on your index finger is the ideal place to have it. So it comes with this groovy little sizing kit that you can pass along to other people. So you do not need to return it. I'm waiting for my kit to come so that I can actually order my real one. And it like, I literally cannot wait, but the entire buying process was wonderful and seamless. And I'm excited that they actually offer this, because I was stressing, like, why would I spend this kind of money without knowing what the fit is?
Mm-hmm.
So that's been taken care of for you. Oh my goodness. I'm going to ask this last question for you, because I don't like to overlook this. It was somebody was asking, here it is, quote unquote, LinkedIn user, any tips for minimizing jet lag? Really great, really wonderful question. I'm sure people also maybe not experiencing jet lag, but they will be traveling while they're on holiday, right? Whether it's near or far, families, whatever that is, right? So what can we do about either sleeping on a plane or working through jet lag?
Yeah, I think in terms of jet lag, the best things that I've seen are to try to get yourself on the schedule when you land, or no matter where you're going. Your body's because we're so habitual. Many of us are used to like eating at the same time every day. Whether no matter what meal that is. We kind of are like, oh, at 10 a.m. every day, I eat some food, or at 7 p.m. every day, I eat some food. So your body's going to remember that. When you get off the plane, your body's going to be hungry or not hungry at different times. So if you want to get kind of like on the schedule of where you're going to be, especially if you're going to be there for a few days, to kind of like notice that, like, okay, I'm really hungry right now, but what time is it? And can I wait a little bit longer? Because when you can get your body into the rhythm of where you're at, you're going to start to feel better more quickly. And like, it kind of is going to calibrate a lot of things going on. The other piece, and I was kind of thinking about this earlier for one of our tips for sleep, is getting that morning sunlight. Getting morning sunlight is an incredibly powerful thing for humans. It sends a lot of signals to all the cells in our body that the day is beginning. It's time to get up and move around, and it kind of activates a lot of this hormonal cascade that's like, hey, it's time to wake up and do stuff and like be ready to start the day. So when especially if you're going far and your jet lag might be pretty significant, to spend time outside, in the natural light, because that's going to send cues to your body, like all these ancient brain cues that we have that are going to help you get acclimated to your new time zone more quickly as well.
Smart, very smart. I know I said one last one, but this is a really good question, so I can't let this fly. Do we really need anything from outside for basic bodily things like sleep? I don't know if this is referring to an Oura Ring, or this is referring to other things to help stimulate that, like meditation or listening to podcasts or any of that. And so, I'm going to totally kick this back to you, Lily.
Yeah, I think I could interpret this question a couple of ways as well. But my thought on this is, when your sleep is really good, when you're waking up and you feel refreshed and you're just getting really good sleep. The more I learn about sleep and all of the modern research that's going on about sleep, getting really good sleep kind of eliminates the need for a lot of other things. And so I feel like the things that we might be pursuing, like that glass of alcohol in the evening, or a whole medicine cabinet full of supplements and things like that, like when you're getting really good sleep, you're probably sleeping you're sleeping really well and you're feeling really good. And so I think that, to me, that really is that foundational aspect of sleep. Like, yeah, how much do you really need outside of that? So when you're sleeping really well, when you're eating good nutrient dense whole foods, when you're moving, especially during the day in the sunlight, preferably in the morning, you're going to feel really good. Like, this is how humans are designed to be. And it's our modern lives of 2022 and beyond where we start to get really far removed from that, and sort of decrease our emphasis on sleep. Maybe cheat and have a meal that we know isn't going to make us feel really good, but it's just easy and it's convenient. And then not get movement. And so all of these things contribute to feeling really well. But I do honestly think, for the question answerer or asker, it really is these like kind of old things about humans, like just sort of like just eat well as you can, as well as you're able, sleep when try to take care of yourself, prioritize sleep, try to move in the sunlight. And in general, that's really good. But it's really hard to get all of those things going every day and times. So it's like easier said than done. But yeah.
All right. We are clearly now immersed in the latest and greatest sleep data. Thanks to you, Lily. And thank you, everybody else who woke up with us this morning, who are ready to exercise some top career performance. Get a good night's sleep tonight. Take a nap if you need to, but don't take it lying down. All right. Thank you, everybody. Have an awesome, awesome rest of your day. And thank you so much, Lily.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.